Hi, everyone. I'm Jenna Schulman. I'm an independent consultant, college consultant in Northern New Jersey. And I'm sure you might have been on one of these before. If not, welcome to the College Summer Spotlight Series. I am excited to have Tulane today, as I know it's very popular with the tri-state area students that I work with. New Orleans is such an awesome place. I was there for surprise, surprise, a bachelorette party and it was spend time in Tulane. But it was in such a cool part of the city, much quieter, relaxed, really nice people around. So I love the school so much. And I know that my students that go there and apply there do too. So I'm happy to have two New Jersey representatives today covering the whole state, our lovely state. And they are going to give some insight on Tulane, and I'm going to monitor questions and answers here. So if you guys have any questions, please ask them in here, and we will get to them at the end, as many as we can. So thanks.
All right, well, I guess we'll just go ahead and do some brief introductions before we get into this presentation. So hey, everybody, my name is Angel Carter. I'm an admission counselor and the Visual Performing Arts Coordinator at Tulane. I am a Tulane alum, recently graduated. You'll find out that me and Bailey were actually the same year of graduating from Tulane. I graduated with 2 degrees, one in anthropology and one in cell and molecular biology with a concentration in forensics and archaeology.
And my name is Bailey. I'm also an admission counselor with Tulane. I'm originally from Maryland, graduated last year as well with a BFA in musical theater and a BA in communication, as well as 2 minors in Spanish and a program we have called SLAM, that stands for School of Liberal Arts Management minor. I am the admission counselor for Long Island, Southern New Jersey, and all architecture students. So if you're interested in architecture, you can totally reach out to me.
Awesome, awesome. So we'll go ahead and get started. One thing that I did want to do before we get further into the presentation is, I know it can be kind of hard to visualize Tulane if you've never been to Tulane. So I do want to just share my screen with you all. Oh, wait, Jenna, can you allow us to share our screen real quick?
Yeah, sorry about that.
Okay.
Yep.
No, you're fine, you're fine. And we just have a campus map, and I'm just gonna kind of break it down so you can understand what we're talking about as we talk about it, okay? Perfect. All right. Dun, 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 dun. What's happening here? Oh, okay. Wait, I know what's happening. All right. Ooh, I can't see my screen. Nope, can't see my screen. Oh my God, I can't see my screen. Okay. This is so hard. There we go. Okay. All right. Okay, y'all. So just to kind of, again, give you just a little bit of just kind of a visual representation of where we are in New Orleans. So Tulane University is located in uptown New Orleans. When you hear New Orleans, sometimes I think a lot of our brains go straight to downtown and the French Quarter and all that good stuff, which is great. But we're about 10, 15, maybe 20-ish minutes away from all that in uptown New Orleans. So we like to say, it's close enough to where when you want to go have fun with your friends, go. But it's far enough to where when you want to just chill and hang out on campus, you can do that too. We're located right on St. Charles Avenue, which is where our streetcar line is. So it's awesome for a lot of students to just hop on the streetcar line, go wherever they want to go. And you can think of campus as being sectioned off into 3 different parts. So we have this first part here, which is all the academic quad of campus, or we call the A quad or academic quad. This is where a lot of your classes are going to be, right? So all of these buildings are home to things like the School of Architecture, and different things like that. So you can expect a lot of your classes to be in this area. Then you would cross Ferret Street and you'd enter the student life and resident life portion of campus. So as you can see, much bigger than the first section. It has a lot of dorms in this area. A lot of our student organizations have their offices in this area. We also have the business school here as well. So I know, again, I said before that a lot of the stuff is in the A quad. Well, we do have a little bit of that overflow in our student and resident life portion of campus. And then as we go through, there's this one long street that stretches all throughout campus, which is McAllister Avenue. And that just goes all the way through until we cross Willow Street. and reach the athletics portion of campus. So this is the very last section. We have a few more dorms over here, apartment style complex dorms, what we call the townhomes. It's just a fancy way of saying dorm. And then we reach things like, you know, the Riley Center, which is our gym. And then we have our football stadium on campus, which is awesome for game days, our baseball stadium, another parking lot, and then we reach South Claiborne, which is the end of our campus. So again, just to kind of give you a visualization, there's 3 parts: academics, student life, and athletics. So again, just to kind of help you guys out with that. And without further ado, I will go ahead and let Bailey take it away.
Great. Thank you, Angel. So when we're talking about Tulane, we talk a lot about the idea of fit. And here at Tulane, and kind of Angel and I's mission today is not really to convince you that Tulane is the best university, but rather whether Tulane is the best university for you. You know, at this point, college is going to be, what, 20% of your life? So it's really important that you find a place you really feel comfortable. And there are a few things that go into looking for that right place. So today, Angel and I are going to talk a little bit to you about 3 things that really make Tulane what it is. And that's our programs, our people, and our place. And while we're talking about these, I just want you to think about a few questions in your mind that might help to orient you and help you think a little bit about whether Tulane might be a good fit for you. So the first question is, what do I want out of college? The second question is, who do I want to spend college with? And the third question is, where do I want to spend it? So to begin, I'm going to talk to you a little bit about our programs. And by programs, I mean, what does Tulane offer? What academics do we have that are available to you? I knew for me, looking for a university, I wanted to find a college where I could explore a lot of areas of interest and not feel confined to just one specific interest. And Tulane really provided that for me. So to begin, Tulane is a Tier 1 research university. And what this means is that we have the highest level of research activity possible at a university, as well as faculty who are involved in their own research. I know a lot of students tend to think of research as a thing of the hard sciences, but we actually have research across all departments. So just to give you a few examples, we have research going on in the linguistics department with a professor and some students trying to translate a South Vietnamese soldier's memoir into English. I had a professor in the communication department who would frequently travel to Cuba to study the effects of Korean pop on Cuban youth. So you get to, you know, learn a little bit about these projects that your professors are involved in. And at Tulane, because we're a medium-sized institution, research is really accessible to undergraduate students. So to go a little bit deeper into what it means to be a medium-sized institution, this means our student-to-faculty ratio is 8-to-1, and the average class size is going to be around 22 students. So if you want to go to a university where you can get away with sitting in the back of a lecture hall and never raising your hand, Tulane is not the university for you. Your professors are going to know your name. They're going to know your face. You're going to get to know the other students in your class really well. Speaking on professors, like I said, you're really going to build relationships with these professors that last all throughout college and into your career. Part of the reason I decided to stay in New Orleans after I graduated was because I wanted to perform around the city of New Orleans. And I was actually trying to get a performing job at the National World War II Museum here in the city. And I hadn't heard anything back from the director. And I was just talking to one of my musical theater professors I had known from Tulane, telling him a little bit about my situation. And without me even asking him to, he sent this wonderful letter of recommendation to the museum director, and she hired me within the week. And those are the kinds of relationships that you're really going to build with professors because of the size of our institution. Another thing that's great about Tulane is the academic flexibility. I don't know how many of you know what you want to major in, but I know a lot of students come in, you know, undecided, not really knowing what they're interested in studying. Tulane, when you apply to Tulane, you do not have to be admitted into a specific school, meaning you're just admitted to Tulane overall. And from there, you can take courses in any of our 5 undergraduate classes, or schools, sorry. And beyond that, you don't have to declare a major until the end of your sophomore year. So you get 2 years to explore, take classes in whatever you want, and kind of decide what you might be interested in. I'm going to talk about 2 programs that might help to figure out what major you might be interested in that we offer here at Tulane. The first one is called TIDES. TIDES stands for Tulane Interdisciplinary Experience Seminar. Every freshman is required to take a TIDES course. And usually the courses will combine some area of interest and New Orleans culture, so it could be like music in New Orleans. Usually they try to, give you a broad range of topics to choose from, but somehow connect it to the city that you're going to be living in. I'll give you one example of a TIDES course my friend took. She was a neuroscience major. She took a TIDES course that had nothing to do with her major, and it was called Haunting of New Orleans. And it was all about the supernatural things that go on in the city, and her class got to take a field trip to a voodoo priestess's house and make their own voodoo dolls. Angel, did you never know about this? So that's probably not a class you're going to be taking in every other city across America. So, but that's just an example of the type of class you could be taking, to figure out if that's something you're interested in, to meet students who might have similar interests, and to get acquainted with some professors. Another option that would be available to you would be service learning. So Tulane was one of the first, if not the first, private university to require service learning in order to graduate. Most students complete service learning through 2 service learning courses, but some students can complete it through a service learning course and an internship maybe with a nonprofit, or a service learning course in research. You can kind of tailor it to what you want to do. But we require 2 tiers of service learning, the first tier being a 20-hour service component and the second tier being a 40-hour service component. As the architecture admission counselor, I'm gonna toot the horn of the School of Architecture for a second, but they have this awesome service learning course called Urban Build. And it's a year-long service learning course, a second-tier service learning course. The first semester, students will pair up and they will design a house. They're usually houses, sometimes there are other structures, but they'll design a house in pairs. And at the end of the semester, they will choose one of those houses. When they come back in the spring semester, they actually go out and they build that house from the ground up. They work with construction workers, they bring in electricians and plumbers, obviously because they're not certified to do that. But they build this house from the ground up, and once it's done, they get to sell it at the cost of supplies to a first-time homeowner in New Orleans. So not only is this really a great way to put to use the knowledge you've been learning in the classroom, get out in the New Orleans community and see the effects of your work. But also, I don't know how many students get to say they built a house by the time they graduated. So those are the kinds of opportunities that Tulane will make available to you that only further help to progress what you are learning in the classroom. So, while academics is very important, and that's the reason we are all interested in going to college, that is not the only thing that matters, honestly. So I'm going to turn it over to Angel, who's going to talk to you a little bit more about the people at Tulane.
Yeah, so again, to go off of, those questions that Bailey asked or posed to you all earlier, right? Like, who do you want to spend your 4 years of college with? That's a very important question that we might not always think about. One thing to note about Tulane is that because we're a medium-sized university, we have about a little less than 8,000 undergraduates at Tulane. And with that being said, one thing to note is that students at Tulane are coming from all over the world to attend. An average student is coming 1,000 miles to attend Tulane. So you're gonna have we have representation from all 50 states. We have representation from over 60 countries globally. So you're gonna have a very diverse and cultural experience at Tulane. And speaking on the topic of diversity is very important to us. And one thing that you wanna consider when you're looking at colleges, and as it pertains to Tulane, is diversity an important factor to you? And yes, not only do I mean diversity in geographical diversity, but I mean diversity in terms of racial diversity, socioeconomic diversity, and all these other different things. One thing to note about Tulane is that, again, we have a lot of geographic diversity. The one place that we recognize that we do need a lot of work is within our racial diversity. New Orleans is a very racially and culturally diverse city. So it only makes sense that we try to become as racially and diverse as we possibly can as well. With that being said, you know, when Bailey and I were freshmen, like 5 years ago now, when we were freshmen, the amount of students of color at Tulane was a lot. It was like a little bit like 10%. Like it wasn't a lot of students there. Over the course of our time there, seeing all these different changes, we got a new dean of admission, we hired new admission counselors that looked like a lot of the students that we were representing. We've seen that diversity grow from 10% to like 30 to 40% now. And for a school where that 10% wasn't moving, it's really important to see how that change has grown so much. And so again, I always love to say that just because it seems like someone isn't working doesn't mean that we aren't working, because we are. And so one thing you want to make sure you consider is that diversity component. If it's important to you, make sure that you're looking at colleges and their numbers and how they're making sure that their students of color and other minority groups feel comfortable on campus. One thing to note about students as well is that because students are so involved in the classroom, again, like Bailey discussed, you know, she talked about tides and majors and things like that. Students are choosing to major in things that have nothing to do with each other, right? Like I was an anthropology biology major. Those two things don't overlap in any capacity, but I was able to do it and still graduate on time. And so our students are doing that inside the classroom, but they're also bringing that outside the classroom as well. We have over 200 clubs and organizations at Tulane, everything from, you know, Quidditch. So if you're a Harry Potter fan, we got you. If you want to be involved in Greek life, we have that as well. One thing to note about Greek life is that we do have a deferred rush season. So this means that for fall semester, you are not doing any rushing. You're just, you know, learning new things about the school. You're interacting with the professors, going to class, meeting new people. And then you'll come back early in the spring semester and actually go through the rush process. So again, about 40% of our students are involved in Greek life. So I like to say it's something that won't break your experience if you choose not to do it. It will only make your experience if you choose to do it. So again, if you're considering Greek life, great. We have Division I athletics, right? So football team, basketball, volleyball, intramural and club sports. But then we also have things like Two-Step. Two-Step is one of our favorite organizations that we always love to talk about. It's the Tulane University Service Dog Training and Education Program. Yes, dog is in the name. So as the name suggests, this organization was started about 7 or 8 years ago now by an old admission intern named Adam. Now, when Adam was coming up during his college journey, he had actually trained service dogs at home with his family when he was young. So he was like, you know what, I want to bring this to Tulane. Like this is something that I think Tulane needs. So, you know, he got all the confirmation from our student organization center, and they were like, yes, okay, we'll give you money to go ahead and start this org. So he started with this one dog named Kipper. And he rescued Kipper from a local rescue shelter and trained this dog, right? And that was the first dog on our campus that was a part of Two-Step. Now that we've been at Two-Step, now that this organization has been established, it's grown from one dog all the way up to like 60 to 70 dogs around campus, right? So these are dogs that are being trained by current Tulane students. So if you choose to be a part of this organization, you start your first year by, you know, just volunteering, doing some puppy sitting for the current trainers, that sort of stuff. Then by the time you get to sophomore or junior year, you're like, you know what? I have the capacity. I want to, you know, go ahead and get my own dog. I want to train my own dog. So you apply to train. And if you are selected, then you'll actually go ahead, get your dog, go through the training process for about a year to a year and a half. And once you finish that training process, that dog will actually graduate from puppy school and go on to help someone in need in the US. So again, like you're doing that impact that Bailey was talking about with, you know, something like Urban Build and making an impact in the community, you are also making an impact within your extracurriculars on an even bigger scale, right? So that's one thing you want to think about. Another thing you want to think about too is, you know, is there a close-knit alumni base? Because again, I mentioned earlier, all of our students are coming from all over the world. This means that when they graduate, they're going out all over the world. So the career opportunities and the opportunities in general are just endless, right? One story that I always love talking about as it pertains to how close-knit our alumni network is and you know is continuing to be. I will preface this by saying that as someone who is an alumni now, and I'm sure Bailey can attest to this now, being an alumni, like we have a very strong sense of like pride and like we love Tulane, you know, like we literally bleed blue and green. So if that can give you anything, any suggestion on how other alumni around the world will react to you wanting a job from them, it kind of helps you kind of understand like where we're coming from when we say that alumni are super passionate about Tulane. So just to kind of give you guys an idea, a personal story of mine. So when I was going through my college process, the summer after my freshman year, like a lot of students, I was like, you know what? I need an internship. I need a job. I need some experience. I need to make some money. Like I need all of it, right? And so I went to our career services office, which again, they're there to make sure that if you want opportunities for internships, jobs, so on and so forth, they can help you. I worked with my career advisor and she reviewed my resume. She helped hook me up with all these different internship opportunities that was out there that I was interested in. And I landed on one and I was like, you know what? Go big or go home. I'm applying to it. I'm going for it. So I'm originally from Atlanta, which is something I didn't say earlier, but I'm originally from Atlanta. And within the majors and where I was at the time, I was really heavily involved within public health. I love public health. And so I applied for an internship at the Center for Disease Control in Atlanta, or the CDC. And at the time, I was like, oh no, like I'm nervous, like what's about to happen? I got to go through these interviews, this application is not about to work. But I went through the interview process, went through all of it. Long story short, ended up getting the job. So I spent my summer of, summer after freshman year working at the CDC. What I didn't know was that the director, when she, when I first went there and like we were setting everything up, getting situated, the director came over to me of my department. She was like, Angel, I don't know if you know this, but one of the real reasons that I, came across your application and immediately swiped it and was like, yes, we need to interview her, was not only because you were qualified, but because you are currently at Tulane and I'm a Tulane alum. And I was like, a whole director out here is working at the CDC and she went to Tulane? What? Are you serious? And so, again, I was able to have that experience and I worked within the rabies canine division. So that was just basically a whole summer of me traveling to Ethiopia and Haiti, just like vaccinating dogs all day. I got to play with dogs literally all day. And it was such a great experience. But it was something that I always love to attribute to the fact that there was a Tulane alum who is a director who I now have a connection with, so that if I ever want to go back and, get another fellowship or get a job or anything like that, I have someone there who can relate, who can talk to me, help me out with it. And so that just is kind of a testament to, what it means to be a student at Tulane, is that you have a connection to this city and you have a connection to this such expanse network of people. And with that being said, I want to move on to the last thing, right? So the last thing that Bailey and I wanted to present to you all is, where do you want to spend your college experience? Now, I'm sure you have not heard about Tulane without knowing that we are in New Orleans, right? And New Orleans, as Jenna said earlier, like New Orleans is an amazing place. It's a great place to visit, but if you can imagine doing 4 years of college there, like you live there now, like you're a part of that community. And one of my favorite things that I've experienced with being in New Orleans was, I've had a few. My first favorite thing was just Jazz Fest. Like there is a festival for everything in New Orleans. We love to say that there are, 365 days a year where there are 365 festivals that you can go to every single day, right? Always something going on. And one of my favorite festivals ever is Jazz Fest. And I just remember freshman year, and it's a music festival for those who don't know. And I just remember freshman year, I walked through these gates of Jazz Fest. There's music from every single corner of the universe. There's food everywhere of all of these different local New Orleans restaurants. And my favorite artist, well, one of my favorite artists, his name is J. Cole. He's a rapper. Some of you might know him. I saw him in concert freshman year at Jazz Fest, and I lived my best life. Like I was thriving because I love J. Cole and I had never seen him before in concert. So again, that was just a moment that I had my freshman year where I was like, I've made such a great decision. Like I know that I am meant to be here and I'm meant to be in this city. And this is just one of those experiences that's like surreal. And it kind of solidified my notion that I was like, yes, I'm meant to be here. What about you, Bailey? Did you have any experiences like that?
Well, if we're talking about festivals, as Angel said, we have everything from music festivals like Jazz Fest, food festivals. So any food you can think of, whether that's fried chicken fest, mac and cheese fest, po' boy fest, beignet fest, gumbo fest. Like I could keep going. But of course, I'm sure you all want to hear about the big one, which is Mardi Gras. So most people think of Mardi Gras as a one-day celebration, but in New Orleans, it's at least a 1-month celebration filled with parades and king cake and costumes. If you want to come here for Mardi Gras, you better start saving costumes now, because during Mardi Gras, if you're not in a costume, you're the odd one out, and you don't want to look weird for being in normal clothes. So but yeah, and it's just so fun. You end up going, and so the parades, some of the parades happen right on St. Charles, not right in front of Tulane, so you won't get distracted, but close enough that you can just walk down to them. My big Mardi Gras moment, so every parade has their own special throw, which is what they throw off of the floats and into the crowds. My favorite parade is called Muses. It is an all-female parade that happens on the Thursday night before Mardi Gras. And their special throw are these highly bedazzled, hand-decorated Muses shoes. So yes, as you can see, Angel has a Muses shoe. I spent all 4 years of college trying to get a Muses shoe to no avail. And finally, when I decided I wasn't just gonna earn it, when I wasn't just gonna get one, I had to earn it. So I took my own bottle, I decorated it with Mardi Gras beads, and I traded it for my own Muses shoe. So that was probably the proudest Mardi Gras moment of my life, besides freshman year when I caught some beads that were like as big as my face. That was really exciting too. But yeah, I mean, I think a lot of people think of New Orleans as this really fun, crazy place, but honestly, and I know Angel will be able to talk about this too, there's a lot more to New Orleans than just the fun part of it.
Yeah, definitely. And again, one thing to note, y'all, is like, when you are looking at colleges, what is that return on investment that you're going to get in the city that you're in, right? So once you leave, once you've had all your fun in New Orleans, and once you decide to actually start your career, what does that look like for you? So the very last thing that we want to talk to you all about before we really get to these questions that you all have is, just understand that when you come to Tulane, again, when you're in New Orleans, it's a lot of fun. We love to celebrate any and everything. We're celebrating it. But we're also a very academic city as well. There's also a lot of opportunities here. So in New Orleans especially, we're growing in a lot of industries, whether it's the movie industry, business industry, corporate industry, like nanotechnology industry, biomedical industry. Like there are so many different things that's happening in this city. And an interesting statistic that I did not realize, but now I do, is that about 30% of our students, when they graduate, they choose to stay in New Orleans. So they choose to go ahead, live their lives here, continue their education or continue their work here, and invest a lot in this city that has given so much to us. So we are a very academic city, even though we love to have fun with every little thing. And so just keep that in mind as you're going and you're looking at colleges. You want to make sure that, in a place like New Orleans, because here's the thing, you can go anywhere, right? And you can go to all these big cities, and that's great. Or you can be in a city like New Orleans where the opportunities are endless and it's not as big of a city. So you're going to get to whatever career you want to quicker, if that is any indication, right? So just keep that in mind as you guys are going through and looking at colleges. And with that being said, again, we love Tulane, as you can tell from how we talk about it, how passionate we are about it. And yeah, this is the moment where we want to go ahead and recommend that whatever questions you all have, go ahead and ask them.
I actually have a question. So I'm sure everyone's on here and saying like, wow, that sounds awesome. I want to go to Tulane. What are you looking for? I know you've gone test optional like many other schools. So what are you looking for so students that are applying this fall or even in the future years know how to put together a good application?
Yeah. I guess I'll let Bailey get into like the logistics. I just have one piece of advice that I want to just make sure you all know. And I say this to every student I come across, because you all ask this question of like, what are y'all looking for? Like, what looks good? Here's the thing. A lot of times y'all start this process and you go through this process and you try to tell admission counselors what you think we want to hear. And 10 times out of 10, we don't want to hear that, right? We want to hear from you, okay? We want to hear you and your authentic self. So if you're in school now and you're doing stuff that is like, in your mind, you're like, oh, I'm just doing it because it looks good. We don't want to see that. We want to see what are you doing because you want to do it, right? So if you love astronomy, did you join the astronomy club? Great, we love to see it. If you love musical theater, did you do theater in high school? Okay, great, we love to see it. You know, so we want this to be shaped based off of who you are and what you're interested in. Don't try to force anything that doesn't need to be forced. As cliche as it sounds, just be yourself. Go ahead, babe.
Yeah, I totally second exactly what Angel said. So when we are looking at an application, we're looking at a few things. I usually break it down into 5 categories. Your first category is going to be academics. So probably without a test score, we're going to be looking at rigor of courses. Are you challenging yourself in the context of your school? If your school offers a lot of APs, are you taking advantage of that? We'll probably also look at the way you write, probably to get a sense of academics in case we don't have that test score for you. We can talk a little bit more about test optional later. So academics, extracurriculars, did you hold leadership positions? Were you consistently involved? As Angel said, did you do things you wanted to do? What defines who you are? We're going to be looking at your writing samples, so that's your personal statement, and Tulane does have an optional Why Tulane statement. I'm telling you now, if you don't write the Why Tulane statement, we are not going to vouch for you. We want to know why you want to be. If you can't write the Why Tulane statement, then maybe Tulane isn't the place you should be applying. Because we want students here who are both qualified and interested. I mean, you have seen how much Angel and I love Tulane, and we want other students in that community who also love Tulane. So not optional. Then we're going to be looking at your guidance counselor letter of recommendation. That is the only letter of recommendation we require, but you can submit more if you want. And then demonstrated interest. I know there's a question in the Q&A about demonstrated interest. Tulane does, like I said, we want students here who are interested in us attending things like this. Right now, due to coronavirus, we are also offering virtual events practically every day. So you can really be racking up your demonstrated interest just sitting from home. You can go to our virtual visiting page, which we will share with you in the chat. But yeah, you can sign up for events like tips and tricks for applying, case studies where we review applications with you, just virtual info sessions and tours, anything that you could think of, we probably are having an event for it. So that's another way to get your demonstrated interest in. Those are kind of the main things we're looking at. Angel, I don't know if you wanted to also talk about aid and merit scholarships.
Yeah, definitely. We can definitely hit on that. Okay, so and one thing that I want to also add about demonstrated interest, y'all, is that so sending us emails, because again, we're the ones who work with you all since you're from as New Jersey counselors. So in terms of sending emails and asking us questions and things, trust and believe when I say we want to answer all of your questions. Okay, we love answering your questions and hearing from you. However, make sure that you understand that when you're asking questions and you're demonstrating your interest, make sure that you at least Googled it, Siri'd it, Alexa it, whatever you need to do to get that information. Because if it's something basic that you can find on the website, then chances are I'm gonna link you to the website anyway. Okay, so just make sure that Bailey's laughing because she knows it's true. So just make sure that when you guys are emailing us and asking us questions, that you are doing your research, because that also goes into your Why Tulane, right? That's a part of why you want to come here, is doing your research on the school. As it pertains to aid, so merit aid and financial aid. One thing to know about Tulane is that merit aid is coming from the Office of Admission, so that's coming from us, whereas financial aid is coming from the Office of Financial Aid. So there are 2 separate entities that handle aid at Tulane. Another thing to note is that we are a need-blind school. So this means that when you apply, we do not care about your family's finances. That does not go into our consideration at all. We only look at you as an applicant and what you bring to the table. There are some schools that look at you and family's finances, and you have to make a certain amount to even think about applying, right? We don't even do that, okay? So as it pertains to merit aid, one thing to know about applying to Tulane is that just by applying, you are automatically considered for partial merit aid, okay? So just by sending an application, no other applications needed. And that partial admission aid ranges up, down, and around, okay? The next thing to note is that we do offer 2 full tuition scholarships, the Paul Tulane Award and the Dean's Honor Scholarship. The Paul Tulane Award is an essay-based scholarship, whereas the Dean's Honor Scholarship is a project-based scholarship. So do you want to do an essay? Do you want to do a project? It's totally up to you. Apply for both if you want to, right? You can never, run out of options of things to apply for. We do have some other partial merit scholarships that you can apply for as well. Everything from, community service fellowship to musicianship scholarship. So definitely apply for anything and everything that looks good to you. And before, because I haven't looked at the Q&A yet, but before I get this question of, does test scores matter if you're doing, when you're applying to scholarships, if we're test optional? Here's the thing. We're test optional because we're saying you can submit a test if you want, you cannot submit a test if you don't want, right? It's totally up to you. So we will never hold that against you as it pertains to your application, and we won't hold it against you as it pertains to your scholarship. So keep in mind the scholarship, yes, the academics and the application are important, but those scholarships require a lot of supplemental information as well, like supplemental material. So the essays, the projects, those are a big chunk of what it means to get those scholarships. So keep that in mind, okay? Now, next we have financial aid. One thing to know about merit aid, about the difference, is that when you receive merit aid from us, it will apply every single year, okay? So you don't have to reapply for merit aid. If you get $20,000 your freshman year, you're gonna have $20,000 sophomore, junior, and senior year for however long you're at Tulane. Financial aid is a bit different. For financial aid, we look at both the FAFSA and the CSS profile. What these two things are, the FAFSA is from federal, so it's federal money, right? So that's things that we hear like grants, loans, work study, things like that. The CSS profile is institutional scholarship aid. So this is money that our donors just send us. Like they're just like, boom, we have money, give it to all these students so that they can have a good, fully funded education, okay? So again, keep in mind, we highly recommend you apply for both. Even if you're one of those people that's like, I don't know if I qualify. That's okay. Still apply for it. Still connect with your financial aid advisor, because chances are you will qualify for something, especially during the time that we're in, y'all. Secure your bag, right? As Cardi B likes to say, secure that bag, all right? So apply for any and everything. And then last but not least, when thinking about financial aid, is that keep in mind, financial aid, you have to reapply for every single year. So you're going to have to fill out that FAFSA and CSS every single year that you're in college, because we know that family financial situations can change every single year, okay? But that's it for aid.
Somebody asked, are you only test optional for the class of 2021?
Yes. Mm-hmm.
Okay. So somebody asked what GPA is needed. I know the GPA is kind of a sticky situation. So I guess, like, what is your average GPA if you have one, and what grades typically are you looking for that students that get admitted have?
Yeah. Well, here's the thing, y'all. Like, for us, GPAs aren't that, like, there's no like minimum or, maximum GPA that you have to apply to Tulane. We look at all GPAs because what we're really focusing on is your coursework. So we really want to see what you're taking. Are you taking, honors classes, regular classes, AP, IB, whatever that looks like. And then we kind of, do our own thing and calculate a GPA, weighted, unweighted, all that stuff. We take all of it into consideration. So don't get too hung up on the GPA because there is no minimum for us.
Okay.
Also, with GPA, we're also going to be taking an in-depth look at your transcript. Yeah. So if you have a little bit of a lower GPA and we notice in your transcript, maybe you just had a rough freshman year because it took you a while to get, acquainted with high school, or maybe you had one rough quarter or semester because of virtual learning. We will take that context into consideration. We're not going to penalize you for anything contextually that might have been happening that we, wouldn't know about just looking at your GPA.
Good. Can you talk a little bit more about your acceptance rate and maybe the benefits of applying early decision?
Yes. So our acceptance rate, y'all, like every single year has gone down. So that just means that it's getting much more competitive in applying to Tulane and getting into Tulane. So here's the thing, there are 3 cycles to apply, right? Early decision, early action, regular decision. When we think about early decision, one thing to note is that, just in general, one thing to note is that by the time we get to regular decision, we've already chosen like 90% of our class. So if you are really interested in Tulane, like Tulane's at the top of your list, I would advise you don't wait until regular decision to apply. I would apply in either early decision or early action. okay? The difference in, like when you apply is totally up to you because early decision is binding and early action is not, okay? As far as your chances of getting in with, early decision, early action, they're kind of about the same. There's really no like, we look at one more than we look at the other. Like they're kind of about the same. Again, the only difference is your preference. So if you want a binding option through early decision where you're like, your parents, your counselors sign a contract that's like, look, I understand that if I get into Tulane, I am coming no matter what. So if that's, you and what you feel, then yeah, definitely go for early decision. Bailey, do you want to touch on early action?
Yeah, so early action is that other early option, but is non-binding. So it still shows that you have a lot of interest, but you are not committed to coming to Tulane. So whereas with early decision, you're kind of also saying like, no matter what money, like it's financially viable for my family. EA, early action, you can just, it's, totally open, non-binding. It is our biggest applicant pool. But again, as Angel said, there's really no difference between there's no difference in the way we review early decision applicants versus early action applicants. But early action is definitely another great decision rather than regular decision.
Yeah, and I just want to emphasize here, guys, like if money comes into play in any part of this process for you, like if you and your parents are concerned about money, I would maybe not apply. I would maybe not be as gung-ho for you to apply early decision as I would be for you to apply early action. The reason being is just for early decision, right? Like if you get in, you're committed instantly, right? And you have to tell us that you're coming maybe possibly before financial aid and scholarship information. So just keep that in mind. Again, this is just based off of you and your personal financial situation, you and your parents in your home, okay? But just keep that in mind as you're going forward as well.
Yeah, and I will make one more comment. Those full tuition scholarships that Angel was talking about earlier, you can only apply for them if you apply either early decision or early action. So early decision would be due November 1, early action November 15th, and those full tuition scholarship apps would be due December 15th. If you apply regular decision, you cannot apply for those scholarships. So that's another advantage of applying early.
Okay, that was helpful. If somebody wanted to send their SAT and ACT scores, what are usually the middle 50% range?
Yeah, so usually middle 50% is anywhere in between like a 30 and a 33, right, Bailey? That sounds right.
I thought it was 31 and 34.
Oh. So a 30, in between a 30 and a 34 for ACT. And then for SAT, I want to say it's anywhere between like 1450, 1550. That's got to be right? Yeah, that sounds, okay. Bailey is fact checking me, but yes. So yeah, for SAT, somewhere in between 1450 to 1550. I don't want those numbers to scare y'all though. Like don't get bogged down because you hear it's a 34 or like a 1550. Keep in mind, that's just middle 50%. So there are plenty of students who have above that and who have below that who still get it.
Yeah, and I don't know about Angel, but I know that I'm sure Angel would be happy to do this as well. If you want to email us, and if you're comfortable sharing your score, we will give you our honest opinion of whether we think that is a score you should submit, or if, maybe that's not a score that really reflects who you are as a student. We're happy to just be open and honest with you.
Yeah.
Is the business school direct admittance? Never say that word.
Yeah, so I kind of answered this earlier. You don't have to apply to a specific school. You just get into Tulane overall, and then you can go into whatever school you want.
Cool. I'm interested in studying medicine. Do you recommend applying pre-med, or is it better to apply to the general university and select a major once admitted?
Okay, so I feel like there's still a bit confusion about how Bailey explained the academics, because here's the thing, y'all. So the 5 schools that we have, right? So business, science, engineering, liberal arts, architecture, and public health. When you apply to Tulane, you apply to all 5 of them, okay? So when you apply, and keep in mind too that major on your application doesn't really hold a lot of weight. Like we don't care what your major is because we know that when you get here, it can change 2, 3, 4 times, right? So we're not necessarily looking at what your intended major is. That's your business, right? That's you. Okay, that's great. So when you apply, you're applying into all 5 schools. And one thing to know about our pre-professional programs is that they're tracks, so they're not majors. So pre-med is a track at Tulane. Pre-law, pre-vet, pre-dental, all all tracks. So that means you go on that track, but you major or minor in whatever else you are interested in. So yeah, just keep that in mind. Hopefully that answered the question. But yeah, I would recommend that if you are interested in studying medicine, when you get into the school, just go ahead and declare pre-med, go ahead and declare whatever other major you want, but it's totally up to you.
Okay, somebody asked, I'm interested in business, management, and marketing. I've researched and learned about Tulane's business school. I also enjoy the arts. As an undergraduate, can I also take graphic design courses to double major in the School of Professional Studies?
Okay, yes. So this is something that happens for a few of our students where they want to do something in the School of Professional Advancement and something within Newcomb Tulane College, which is our undergraduate college. Yes, it is possible. You are still more than welcome to do that and have a double major, one in professional advancement and one in undergraduate studies.
Okay. How does the application process work? How easy is it to transfer between schools? I don't know if I understand that question, but maybe like if you go, I guess it doesn't matter because it doesn't matter what major you put. Maybe if you start off as like an engineering major, can you transfer over to business after your freshman year?
Yeah, so as we were saying, you don't have to declare that major until the end of your sophomore year. So just take those 2 years to run around and do whatever you want. After that, it might get a little harder just because you're going to be in junior year and you're going to be graduating in a year or two. But we do give you 2 years to take classes in whatever school you want.
Awesome. How is your computer science and engineering school ranked? Do you provide co-op and internship options?
So our School of Science and Engineering is what houses our engineering majors and computer science majors. To be very honest with you, I do not know the rank of any of that. I just don't know. So that would be something that you would need to research and Google. But I can tell you that when it comes to like co-ops and internships, so we don't necessarily have a co-op program per se, but we do have a very strong internship, career services, job network. So if you were looking for internships within engineering and computer science, then you can just connect with our career services office and they will hook you up. Again, that's how I got my internship at the CDC, right? So like they will hook you up with jobs and internships for the summer, or if you want to do research during the semester, during the school year, then you can definitely connect with some professors and the career services office as well.
Okay. What major would you recommend for a student who intends to pursue a pre-law or pre-med track?
Kind of going off of what Angel was saying earlier, it really depends on what you want to do. I had a friend at Tulane who was pre-law and she was studying, I think, political science and Russian. So it really just depends on what you want to do. We also do have a pre-med program. Don't ask me how it works. I don't know exactly how it works. It's called the Creative Scholars Program, and I'm pretty sure you would major in the School of Liberal Arts, but still be pre-med. So there's a lot of different options that you can take. We have suggestions, but it's not a set major that you have to do. I would also recommend reaching out to the Office of Academic Advising. We have specific pre-med, pre-law advisors that would know more about it than we do.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and so just piggybacking off of what Bailey said, as far as the Creative Pre-Medical Scholars Program, so we have a few of these like specialized programs for pre-med and pre-law students. Creative Pre-Medical Scholars is one of them where, like Bailey said, you come in, you do all of your pre-med requirements within your freshman and sophomore year, and then by the time you reach, so you do your pre-med requirements, but you major in something within the School of Liberal Arts. So people will do pre-med but major in theater, pre-med but major in sociology, right? Like whatever that looks like for you. And then by the time you get to junior year, if you complete the program, then you would have guaranteed admission into Tulane Med. So again, and you won't have to take the MCAT, right? Nothing like that. You just just upon completion of the program, you have guaranteed admission. And we have a few other programs like that. Again, for pre-law, we have a 3+3 program. So 3 years of undergraduate, 3 years of graduate law. You graduate quicker, which is nice, and you get to your studies a lot quicker. But yeah, there are some of these specialized programs as well, y'all.
Parents must love that because that saves a whole year of tuition.
Mm-hmm.
What are your most popular majors at Tulane?
I would say, so I don't think we have like set popular majors. I want to say that we maybe have like more popular schools than others. Like, and by that, I just mean that within each of these schools, they have their own individual popular major. So for example, our biggest schools, just by the amount of people who are in them, happen to be the School of Science Engineering and the School of Business. School of Business is probably our number one biggest school. And so within those, you know, things like neuroscience, psychology, cell and molecular biology, those are some of the biggest within the School of Science. School of Business, marketing, management, finance, those are some of the biggest. And School of Liberal Arts, everything from like international relations to political science. Bailey, I don't know, what in architecture, like what's the biggest program do you think they have in architecture? If you know.
Architecture.
Architecture. That's
so,
it.
In architecture, we had 3-degree programs and we're opening up 2 more. So I think we do have a 4-year architecture program and we also have a 5-year architecture program that would get you your certification. So those are the 2 most popular, but we are adding a design major, a real estate major. So if you're interested in any of those, that might also be a good thing to look out for.
Can you talk a little bit, is housing guaranteed all 4 years? And can you talk about the meal plans and living areas?
So yes. Go ahead, baby.
Housing is not guaranteed. You do have to live on campus as a freshman and sophomore. After that, housing is not guaranteed. Most students move off campus and rent a house with some friends close by, which is what I did. I loved living off campus in a house, helped to prepare me for the real world, I felt like. And then, so that's kind of that. In terms of meal plans, there are a few options. Most freshmen tend to opt for the unlimited plan. So you would get unlimited swipes into the dining hall, which is brand new, the Commons. It's beautiful. And you also will receive something called Wave Bucks, which is money that you can spend at on-campus locations in the food court, coffee shops, and you'll also get something called NOLA Bucks, which is the same idea. It's like money on your card that you can spend at certain New Orleans restaurants. From there, we have a couple other meal plans wherein like you would have a set number of meals per week at the dining hall, like 15, but then we would up your Wave Bucks and your NOLA Bucks, which is kind of how it works.
And if you have like dietary restrictions, you know, they do have things like a kosher meal plan. So if you fall into that, then you know we can help you out with that as well. Or again, if you just have other dietary restrictions in general, then we make sure to let you guys have that space to get to where not to like eat whatever is good for you.
Do you know when Tulane will be open again and conducting on-campus tours? And then if you don't know that, I guess since you do track interest, what are some other ways students can show their interest?
So don't tell anyone, but we're actually open now for tours. So we actually just opened back up for tours. A very limited number of people to attend these tours though, guys. So if when you're online and you're signing up and you're like, oh wait, this is the date I want, but it's not the date I can get, chances are it's full. So move on to the next date, right? But we are open for tours right now. Feel free to come down. Again, don't necessarily bring like your whole family, right? But like, you know, bring maybe both of your parents, something like that. But yeah, you are more than welcome to come down for tours. And that, you're right, that's another way we can track the interest. Outside of that, again, by emailing, connecting with us, attending the virtual events, guys. Like, these virtual events are the biggest way right now that we're tracking interest. So I put the link in the chat. Please sign up for some if you haven't. We are also conducting interviews right now. So if you have yet to sign up with the interview, please go ahead and do that. You should have received something in your emails. If you've like contacted Tulane before, in your email, you should have something there about signing up for an interview with us. It won't always necessarily be Bailey or I. Our interviews are selected or assigned at random by a admission counselor. So it could be anyone, but again, just the opportunity to talk with that admission counselor, let them get to know you. That's another way to show interest as well.
Yeah, I do want to say one more thing about in-person tours. Don't buy tickets down here to fly down here and then think you're just going to walk in. We are not taking walk-ins. You will not be able to get around the system, so don't try it. And we are requiring all our visitors to wear masks and complete a pre-registration survey to make sure that y'all are healthy.
Mm-hmm. Love it. How would you describe a typical Tulane student?
Ooh. I would say a Tulane student is a person who is engaged. That's like the one word that I always think of when I think of Tulane students, me. Tulane students, they're engaged, right? Like they're engaged in something, whether that be their community, whether that be the Tulane community, right? Like they want to make a difference in some way, and they use Tulane as a way to get to where they want to be to make that difference. So I would say if you are a person who, you know, you're passionate about community service, you're passionate about diverse learning and diversity in general, right? Like you're passionate about being in a very cultural city, and hearing from all different perspectives and backgrounds, then yeah, Tulane might be the place for you. And if you're not interested in all that, well, Tulane might not be the place for you. So just keep that in mind.
We have someone who asked twice about the new design major. When will that be launched and how they can find more information?
The fall of 2020. So this upcoming semester, you can find more information on our or on Tulane's School of Architecture website. I'm pretty sure it's just architecture.tulane.edu, maybe. And they will have on there an overview of what the major is. They have a curriculum sheet, so you will see how the classes are laid out and what the requirements would be. And you can always feel free, after you do some research, to reach out to me if you have any remaining questions. And I can also get you in contact with faculty and staff over in the School of Architecture.
Great. Okay, so we know we have a few minutes left. Any last remarks? I mean, maybe like why you both decided to attend Tulane and continue to work at Tulane and what makes it a special place?
Yeah, I guess I'll go quickly. I chose Tulane. Well, I guess the biggest reason I chose Tulane is because, like all of you, when I was starting this journey, my mom was like, "Do you want to stay in state?" And I was like, "No." So our compromise was to choose a place that was like close enough to my family, but it was also far enough away that I really discovered a lot about who I was. And I developed a strong independence about me and about what I wanted out of my college experience. And so I really enjoyed the fact that I got the opportunity to be in New Orleans, to be at Tulane. I love the city of New Orleans, and Tulane is awesome. I think Tulane is one of those things where, like, if you put Tulane in the middle of a cornfield, that's okay. But if you put Tulane in the middle of a New Orleans, in the middle of New Orleans, like, it's even better, right? So I really love the relationship that the Tulane community has to New Orleans community, and how we all are there to help each other. Like, New Orleans is one of those places that just hugs you when you come. So that's probably one of my big reasons for choosing Tulane.
Yeah, and that's also my favorite thing about Tulane is the integration of Tulane and the community of New Orleans. For my own personal story, I did not want to go to Tulane. My parents really wanted me to go to Tulane because they like to visit New Orleans. And they took me down here. They brought me on their own campus tour, even though neither of them went to Tulane. And anyway, I was signed up for a campus preview day, and I decided to go anyway. And I walked into the student center, and I heard the jazz band playing. And it was in that moment that I knew Tulane was the right school for me. Mm-hmm. It was a very instantaneous, I think in that moment, I just realized, as Angel was saying, there's so much culture and history and tradition in this city that I wasn't going to get anywhere else. And it just captivated me. And that's another reason that I decided to stay after I graduated. And I knew I wanted to work at Tulane and stay in New Orleans, especially because of the Tulane community. I knew I would be welcomed. I knew, that everybody would just be kind. And so that's why I came, and that's why I stayed.
Yep.
I love it. All right, well, thanks, guys. For everyone watching, please email Angel and Bailey if you have any questions, and take more of their virtual visits. And if you can get down there safely, register, because they are doing tours, but don't, bring the whole family. And check out New Orleans, such a great city. And if you are looking for more of these, we are doing in just another hour. We have Northeastern on at 6 p.m. Eastern time, a little bit different than New Orleans, up in Boston. And then this is the rest of our schedule. So lots of schools to spotlight, but definitely happy to have Tulane on, and great meeting you guys, and hope to see you in New Jersey.
Thank you.
Be able to travel there this fall. Are you planning on doing the hotel visits, or you don't know yet?
We don't even know.
Okay.
Yeah, we haven't. But I mean, rest assured, even if we aren't able to get there, we will definitely try to plan all the virtual events that we can for you guys, for your individual schools. So just be on the lookout for that information.
Yeah, and the interviews are great. That's awesome. Starting early. So I love
Definitely.
it. All right. Thanks. Nice meeting you both. And maybe I'll see you in person soon and have a great rest of your night.
All right. Bye, y'all.
You
Thanks.
too.
Bye.